It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Her Success Story, where we share and learn from one another about the stories that have brought all of us to success. Success, as I often say, is a journey. It's not a destination. And in honoring the month of June, we are honoring all the fathers in our clan. So we usually focus on a lot of women's stories, a lot of women interviews. For the month of June, we're honoring the men. You know, we don't do this alone. We do this in conjunction with partners. Those partners can be our spouses, our girlfriends, our business associates, our community. We build, I'm a strong believer in building community, and I'm a strong believer of the success of men and women collaborating. So in this month, we're honoring the dads, and today's successful dad is Ramon Ray. I have to tell you, you know, I could read a bio, I could read a website, but let me tell you, Ramon and I go back a bunch of years, and I could probably, if I figure out the years, it's going to look like we're really old, so I'm going to let that go there. But Ramon, I'll just give you a few of his highlights, because he's an amazing man. He's the founder and editor of Smart Hustle magazine. He has started 4 companies, so some people might refer to him as the serial entrepreneur. And Ramon has shared the stage with some pretty powerful people out there. Seth Godin, Daymond, Simon Sinek, to name a few. I have seen Ramon and Seth on stage together a couple of times, and I just sit in the audience in awe that the content and the information and just the laughter that comes out. He has written over 10,000 articles and blog posts, and Ramon, probably that's dated. He's a graduate of the FBI Citizens Academy. And most importantly, you know, one of the things I love about following Ramon is he loves to travel. So I love to see him, all of a sudden he's off somewhere in this world. And I'm like, I see him on Facebook doing some kind of video or post. I'm like, oh man, where is Ramon this week? What's he doing today? So we'll, of course, share Ramon's website. You could follow him. But I have to tell you, one of the most fun people, friend, colleague to follow. So welcome, Ramon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that warm introduction. I wasn't sure it was me, but listen, I'm happy to be here, excited to share with your audience, and I enjoy being a dad, enjoy being an entrepreneur, and sharing what I can with your amazing audience. So I really appreciate the opportunity, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. So let's get started. You know, we were chatting a moment ago before we got started. We don't come out of like the womb, meaning out of our moms, or out of the womb, out of post-education. And all of a sudden we're born speakers. We're born, you know, entrepreneurs. We're born building businesses. How in the world did you end up doing what you do today and making such a large impact?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ivy. Actually, I'm the exception to that. When I was born, my mother gave me a keyboard, and I started blogging right from the womb after they cut my cord, and the rest is history. I mean, we were live streaming it, not the birth, and that's that. But I jest. But no, really, Ivy, I think the short of the journey, I've always been interested in technology in some way, shape, or form, and a vicarious reader. So I don't know if that counts, but meaning I wasn't born on a farm milking cows or something. So I think I had the slant towards being the content producer and event producer that I am today. I've always loved to speak and et cetera. So that's one. I think I did have that in my DNA somewhere.
Okay.
I spent many years at the United Nations. Once I graduated from high school, jumping many years ahead. So I just wanted a job. So somebody from my church said, Ramon, you should apply and you can be a secretary or admin support. I applied, got the job, and was promoted and left managing an office. So that's kind of a quick journey there, Ivy. And while there, I started a few companies. Please go ahead.
All of a sudden, so you're at the UN. Okay, you were there. Mm-hmm. You got this job after high school. And when did I know part of this is you saw yourself as a business owner early on.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
like what dawned on you? How did you realize like, hey, this is what I'm meant to do? And what did you do with that?
That question, I don't know if I can answer, Ivy, and maybe you can help me answer that question right on your show. But I know that, so my first business, Ivy, was one of my first real businesses was a technology consulting company. Just going into small businesses and helping them with their cables and Microsoft Access at the time we were using and software. So that's kind of the early start of it. So I don't know really how that happened or why. I guess the slant in me being a techie, a friend says to you, hey, Ramon, can you help me fix my computer? And then they're like, can you come again? Can you come again? And you're like, maybe I should charge for this. So I think that's how it started, but I don't know if I thought I was made for it. It just kind of evolved with it. Does that make sense?
It makes an enormous amount of sense. And, so many businesses are started with, gee, somebody asks, there's a demand in the marketplace, and that could easily be, can you come fix me? And I could easily call you up and look, help, having technology help, which is so not an unusual
right.
Ivy here. And then that second, and all of a sudden I'll always refer to the good old Keith Richards coconut hitting you on the head moment and say, gee, would somebody pay for this? And if they did, what would that look like? Can I, can I scale this? Could I make a living at this?
Yep, for sure. And Ivy, in the same way, your journey in a way, I mean, me and you have talked, and I don't know how yours started, but I can imagine myself years ago, Ivy, I'm stuck here. Ivy's like, you know what, Ramon called me for the third time. Maybe I should invoice him. So I can see the same thing, with any of the things we do where people call us for help, right? So, but you're right. So I was at the UN and still doing my entrepreneurial journeys. And one day the time came when we had to separate. I wasn't a fit for them. They weren't a fit for me. And that's really where I launched and kind of am the Ramon, as it were, that I am today, launching more companies, writing more books, doing more events, and working with big brands to help them reach small businesses.
And I have to say, one of the greatest impacts and one of the things that I have always learned from following you is you do great business. That's a given. The other thing that you do really well is you build brand presence.
That's powerful. No, thank you, Ivy, for saying that. No, and I think I'd like to think I do that for either the clients I work with, but also, as one of my specialties, I'm not a business coach. I don't know finance. I need to be more strategic. All those things that Ivy does well, but I definitely can build brands. And so I really enjoy the aspect of, I use quite a bit of video, as you know. I love social media, I think, is one of the best gifts for personal branding. Zig Ziglar and the fathers and mothers of 20 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever it was, 60 years ago, they built their brands without the internet. But I think that it was less of them in a smaller world. But now with the internet, I think more people can build their brands online and have their own niche, very small followings of people, or big following, but meaning a targeted audience of people.
I have a question for you. What do you see in all that you've done an enormous amount? What do you see has been your greatest success?
Yeah, I think, and thank you for asking it, Ivy. I think the greatest success, I'd have to split it a few ways. I think there's the transactional things. Kind of the most famous person I've ever interviewed is the President Barack Obama. And those listening right now who don't like, the President Obama, I've also got a selfie with Ivanka Trump, so I cover all angles. But point being is that interviewing the president, I think that was a point of distinction. Having Seth Godin speak at an event, he's a marketer that I happen really, really to like. What he shares and does. But the biggest success, I think, Ivy, not including family and my personal life, is really the one-on-one time where I can help others. And wow, I cry every time when I speak on these things. I'm not crying yet, but tears like a foot down in my throat. I was talking to a young lady just today, a person who from a college said, call Ramon. Ivy, we talked almost an hour just trying to get her unstuck about her career. So for me, I'm not a career coach. I don't, I'm not a strategist. I don't do all this. But that someone who's younger than me or who just needs help could call me and I can help them. Man, that makes my day. I could go outside and scream right now. I might do that after I'm off the interview with you.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I agree with you. It's when we make that personal connection. I had
Hmm.
not the same phone call you had, but an awfully similar one today. It's when we can actually sit on the phone for a little limited period of time and know that
Hmm.
few minutes we took out of our lives made an impact on somebody else's life and the way they'll live in the future
Yes,
is a huge piece of joy.
absolutely. So important and fulfilling for sure.
So I'm really big on relationships, and you and I
Hmm.
met back in the day through a mutual colleague, a networking group.
Hmm.
Never knew where, really early stages. I think it was her first year of starting that her group that has gone
Hmm.
on to become a powerhouse of a group, and
Hmm.
we never knew where our connection would go. And I'm a
Right.
strong believer in relationships. I'm an incredibly strong
Hmm.
believer in relationships, and I want to ask you if there was any particular in this journey of building the Ramon Ray brand and all the companies that are extensions of it. Is
Hmm.
there significant time you could say, because I stayed connection in this relationship, it's made a difference?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if there's one particular connection that I can say, this one person is the reason I'm doing this and this. So probably not one connection, because you're right, relationships are important. But I think it's many of the small relationships and small connections combined over time, at least for me. I can't say that I met Jane Doe, 20 years ago, and because of her, she got me to $1 million. Then she gave me another deal for $1 billion. My journey hasn't been that way, but I think it's the small connections. For example, I was just a track leader at a big event with 4,000 people called Social Media Marketing World. Now, I've known Phil Mershon, I've known Mike Stensler. Mike is the founder of it, and Phil is the director of events for years, and we've, been around each other. And the time came when it so happened I was invited to be a track leader at this big event. So those are the kind of things for me, Ivy, that have been the most impactful. It hasn't been kind of the one relationship, but I love people. So it's really just a matter of smiling, saying hello, going back to Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Now you can, quote unquote, follow people who you like, and have a curated list of people. Some people are closer to you as friends. Some people are you just know from online. And to me, that's really been the biggest impactful, the multiplicity of smaller relationships combined to make big results.
So what has been in this journey? What have been some surprises that have come your way? What shocked the crap out of you?
um, I think what shocks me is that the power of serendipity. And going back to connections, I'll just mention again, when this podcast comes out, maybe a bit different, but the timing. But I was at this big event, Social Media Marketing World, and someone emailed me and said, "Ramon, you should meet this other colleague." I didn't know the person I was meeting. I barely knew the person who was making the introduction. Ivy. It so happened we had 1,000 points of commonality, from faith to business to family to all kind of things. That was mind blowing to me. So I think that's probably the kind of things that I find are most interesting and surprising. Just the power of serendipity, or as you said, Ivy. I connect with Ivy. 5 years later, Ivy says, "Hey, Ramon, my friend Joe's coming down from so and so. Can you meet with him?" I don't know Joe, but I know Ivy. We meet, and it so happens Joe and I now build a different business. That's been for me the biggest results of connectivity and relationships.
And the one thing that, what I'm loving what you're saying is what I'm hearing is the underlying piece of that is showing up. And I talk about that
Yes.
sometimes. It's not that hard to show up. And it's
Hmm.
so much, and it's not that hard to show up. Are we all consistently showing up as much as we can? And I'm not talking about running around your city, your town, your country.
Hmm.
I'm talking about being present, listening, hearing. And
Absolutely. And I think that's showing up is so important. You're right. Hmm.
And yeah, what you're saying is because you have consistently shown up, and sometimes it might be at a conference, it might be at a networking event, it might just be at a
Hmm.
meeting, it might be for a phone call with,
Hmm.
somebody who's graduating college. But by just showing up and being 100% present, you have seen the greatest surprises come from all these opportunities that come out of that.
Absolutely. And I think part of the showing up, Ivy, is not just showing up so I can have an interview with the president. Just showing up so who's a big dog? So the Start With Why guy can shake my hand. No.
Simon Sinek.
It's just showing up. Simon Sinek, yes. It's just showing up so I can be at the event and have the serendipitousness of kind of luck happen, if that makes sense. Meaning I'm not trying to do the big thing, but I just want to be in the right place. So any accidents that happen, I can benefit from. Anybody who comes out of that door is going to be a good connection for me, if that makes sense. That's kind of where I see it being at. I went to an event with Dave Ramsey, Seth Godin, and Gary Vaynerchuk. All throughout an event. The ticket for me, Ivy, was expensive. It could have been $2,000, $1,500, I don't remember, but for me, very expensive. But I went there. I don't recall if there was a direct relationship today from it, but just being there was able to build relationships. And it was worth it. So I was just being in a room with other people. Anybody I connected with at that event was a magical moment.
And that happens to just be so true. If, our listeners are smart, ambitious, they're building businesses, they're building careers, they're on track to bring great things into their lives overall. And I'll always say, our business and our career is not separate from our life. It's separate from our personal life often. But we have one life. What in the scheme of things, to impart a tip or two to our listeners, what are a couple of things that Ramon Ray would say?
Yeah, I think that I'm often asked the question, Ivy, should I have a personal page or a private page and all these things on Facebook and otherwise? How do I, blend my personal and private life? For me, Ivy, there's no personal and private. You can password things and all that, but pretty much I'm very careful what I talk about in public or anywhere. So that's one. I'm not going to get sloppy drunk. Well, I don't drink alcohol anyhow, but I'm not going to get sloppy drunk at a party and post that and think, oh, no one will see it. So that's one. I think two, always be open to connecting with people genuinely and learning the art of connecting with people. Everything's not about getting a card, giving a card. It's just having an openness. I think that's point two. And three, I'll say that I think social media, and I'm not saying this, everybody needs to tweet and be on the internet, but in a way I do mean that. I think that this day and age where everybody can see anything, it's a matter of finding your lane, finding your tribe, finding the people who you can make a difference with the most and connecting with them deep, deep, deep. That's how you make money.
Love it. So you are your brand, right? So be out there 100%.
Absolutely.
And show up as a beautiful self, because you are. That's the model, ladies and gentlemen, the model that Ramon teaches is he has integrity, he's brilliant, and you have a heart and a love for what you do and the people you touch. So that has been the biggest gifts that I have received personally from Ramon. And I look forward to all of you receiving them as you continue to explore a little bit more. You want to check out RamonRay.com. He has I'll be specific in my instructions. Start with RamonRay.com. And then you want to follow Ramon on social media, because it is fun. It brings a smile to my face every day. A video I remember you did in the subway station and I'm like, I could just pop into social media, check out Ramon, and I will always walk away with either learning something or a smile on my face. And that shows the kind of businessman he is to enable to embark that on others. So remember,
I appreciate that, Ivy. Very kind of you.
So check out RamonRay.com. And Ramon, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining me today.
It's been an honor to be on your show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for letting us shine our light and helping others. Thanks so much.